So people often say, well, what to expect on a trip. So the next several slides are really going to focus on the typical, if you will, spots in some of the key cities. So the key kind of first time trip would include Beijing, Xi'an, Chengdu, where the pandas are, Guilin and Yangshuo, which is very well known for the karst landscape, and then on to a province visit for hometown and or orphanage. Obviously, Beijing has many big cultural segments: the Great Wall, Temple of Heaven, things like Bird's Nest, Tiananmen Square. We used to do kite flying in Tiananmen Square. That stopped maybe 8 years ago, and now it's done, I believe, if I remember right, at the Temple of Heaven. So it is, we get to see someone who actually hand makes a kite. That was pretty fascinating, or is pretty fascinating. It's in a traditional huton. And so that's actually myself, my daughters, my sister, entering a huton and getting the kite demonstration. So it's incredibly fascinating. Then train to one of the other ancient wonders of the world, the Terracotta Warriors History Museum. It's impossible to capture that in a scale. This is one of the individuals, I would imagine he's deceased, but at the time we were there, he would, like, I think, give autographs, and I'm sure he charged something for it. But yeah, he was he was one of the farmers, or the key person who located it when he was digging. As I mentioned, a bike ride atop the Xi'an's city wall, again, just to kind of dig into the experience of being in China. And then on the bottom left, you see photos of adoptees who are getting to try their hands at the mold and use that clay in the Xi'an area to make little images of terracotta. Okay, Chengdu, one of the most lovely cities you can imagine. Okay, that's personal opinion, but we'll share it. So pandas, these photos is, one can no longer, quote, hug a panda, because it was a few years before COVID that stopped. I want to say 3 years, because some pandas did get ill and they just wanted to minimize the possibility. So, but still seeing them is amazing and an experience in and of itself. My brother-in-law, who went along on that trip, was like, "Oh, I don't really care about pandas. I just wanted to see the terracotta warriors." And we walked away. He didn't hold one or anything like that. He's like, "Oh my gosh, those pandas!" Oh, he was kind of dumbstruck. So there's something about just seeing him in the preserve, and quite a few of them, and just romping around is so cool. So Chengdu, other things that are wonderful about visiting this city: it's in a valley. It has a very unique culture. There are a lot of parks, a lot of tea houses. It's very famous for certain unique customs. The bottom left segment of photos here is ancient Jingli Street. So it's a restored street, or it probably never fell into disrepair, but you can stay there. They have these, I'll say on the bottom right, like demonstrations of pouring tea from a long spout. An optional thing we include is you can go to an evening puppet show, which is a very unique art form to Sichuan province. I'm going to move on because there's so much to talk about. Then on to where the Li River, Yangshuo. So at the end of the Li River, where the Karst Mountains are, there is like a cooking school. You can take in an evening, I'll say, water show over, excuse me, a water show. You can bamboo raft. This light show is put on by the gentleman who did or choreographed by the gentleman who did the opening ceremonies of the Beijing Olympics. So those are kind of the main stops, if you will, on some of the standard first time trips. You can customize it in the way you wish. What often happens is then we go on to an adoptive family's hometown province. And if there's two, that's something, we can discuss.